This is a podcast from Partnerships for Wellbeing.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Ways to Wellbeing, coming to you from Partnerships for Wellbeing here in Inverness. I'm Jeff Szynski. I'm 59 years old and, all going well, hope to turn 60 in January. And I mention that because my guest this time around is just a wee bit older than me, and it seems she's a wee bit worried about that. Kaye Adams, a regular on ITV's Loose Women and host of BBC Radio Scotland's morning show, turns 60 in December. And she's been sharing her thoughts about that in a podcast series and a live show at this year's Edinburgh Fringe. Kaye, welcome to Ways to Wellbeing.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. But listen, we need to get something sorted. I mean, I need days in terms of how much older than you are, that I am than you. So what's your date of birth in January?
22nd of January.
Oh, right. I'm the 28th. So it's less than a month. This is quite good. But you're so lucky you've got 1963 and I've got 1962. I'm very jealous.
Well, my wife is just about to turn 60, and she's delighted that she's getting a free bus pass and is planning to roam the country. So in fact, she just got confirmation of her bus pass today. So it's so the question for you, Kaye, I mean, what is all this nonsense about? Why are you so worried about turning 60?
Well, yeah, you're right. First of all, it is nonsense, and I'm the first person to acknowledge that. I'm, very fortunate at this point in my life, as you also said. God willing, you'll make it to January. God willing, I'll make it to December. I think I've always had a bit of a thing about my age, and I blame my dear departed mother because it was something that she was absolutely maniacal about. If either of us as kids, myself and my brother, dared mention her age out loud in company or whatever, there's nothing that she would get more annoyed about than that. We could have trashed the house and she would have been less annoyed than if we'd mentioned our age in public, which of course was, a huge amount of fun in the family over the years. And I thought it was ridiculous then, but I must have allowed that to seep into my bones. And then, funny enough, where your birthday falls, I mean, as it happens, I was the youngest in my year by a reasonable amount. I don't know why. Went to school at just 4.5. And so I was used to doing things sort of young for my age, do you know? And I must have got some kind of satisfaction or gratification from that, that you passed this test. Oh, you're young for your age. Oh, you're young for your age. And then, of course, when I was no longer young, I don't know, it must have just come and hit me on the head. And, intellectually, I know it's bonkers. And I really should be approaching 60 with a huge amount of gratitude. But what your brain says and what your heart feels sometimes don't match up. And I guess that's what I am trying to work out with the podcast, because intellectually I know it's stupid. Emotionally, I struggle with it.
Also culturally, I mean, attitudes towards being 60 have changed significantly, haven't they?
Well, yeah, they haven't. And funny you should say that, because I made the very grave mistake of going down a Twitter rabbit hole the other day. And I think, I don't know, anyway, I was the subject of some discussion. And I had done an article for the Daily Mail about, how I felt about my age. And I was sort of confessing that I had lied about my age to my elder daughter, which I did. And so anyway, this guy had written, I saw Kaye Adams saying that she had lied about her age to her daughter to appear younger. I always thought she was 68 anyway. And, so you think, oh, well, okay, fair enough. But what was clear in that is that to suggest that I was older than I actually am was a term of insult, on his behalf. So he clearly thought that was a wounding comment to make. And so going back to your point about, the culture, in many, many ways, and, I'm not going to say it's worse for women than men because we'll experience it differently, but certainly as a woman, you do experience it in a certain way. And, being older is rarely seen by the wider society as a positive thing. And of course, you've got to own that as an individual, and you've got to make a decision as to how you want to age and what your own personal attitude is going to be. But that isn't going to necessarily change the attitude of the wider society. And at the moment, I would say probably not that positive towards older women.
Yeah, maybe. Do you find yourself, because I do this a wee bit, comparing yourself to celebrities, film stars who are the same age as you? I mean, I always say I'm the same age as Tom Cruise. And so I measure myself as I keep looking at him thinking, yeah, well, a wee bit of work and I could look like him too, plus I'm taller. A lot going for me. Do you do that? Do you have film stars that you compare yourself to?
Well, interestingly, as a woman, you don't do that because, female film stars who survive to the age of 59 or, older tend to be the cream of the crop. Funnily, you should say that. I was looking at a photograph today of Demi Moore, who's 59 in a bikini with a body like an 18-year-old and with the best will in the world. That is way, way, way out my reach. I can't do your Tom Cruise thing. It's either that or what you will also see is a picture of an older woman who, sort of very famous film star or whatever, who was deemed to be gorgeous in her late 20s. And now, oh God, look at her now. So it tends to be either an unattainable ideal or, she's let herself go. What I do, which is probably even more weird than what you do, Jeff, is that when I see obituaries, I always check what age they are. It's a bit grim, isn't it? But yeah, I do that.
Well, I mean, do you think about your own mortality? I mean, it is true to say, we can't deny it, that we are running out of tomorrows. So do you think about death and the end of life much?
I don't actually. No, I don't. I suppose, my mum and dad, my dad died in 2017 and my mum died in 2018 after fairly extended periods of ill health for both of them. So really difficult years for them and obviously really difficult years for the family. And I do fear that, not just for myself, but for my daughters, because, I had my kids when I was a little bit older. And so I don't really want them to have that. But, I don't think that's in our power. But if I've got an anxiety, but I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on it, I have to say, I really don't. I don't. But if I was to face a fear, it would be that.
Going back to this issue of the industry you work in, and we keep hearing that things have changed. We look at the television and there's Angela Rippon and Gloria Hunniford on the television. I mean, is that just tokenism, or are things really changing in the industry you work in for older women?
Yeah, no, I do think they are. I mean, I do think there is a lot to be positive about, and those names that you mentioned, no, I don't think it is tokenism at all. They're very accomplished broadcasters, and also this kind of modern era of television. Your audience is growing up with you. Your audience doesn't stay still, and particularly in the current technological era that we are in, because we're seeing a bit of a divide in that the older audience is going with television, terrestrial television as we know it, and the younger audiences tend to be going in a direction towards streaming. So the audiences are getting older and they want to see themselves reflected on television. And so I think all of that is good. So things are definitely getting better. I think in terms of, for women who are in the public eye because of what they contribute, I'll say intellectually sounds very grand, but, because of their mental contribution, if you like, rather than just to look at, I think, yeah, things are very, I mean, look at Kirsty Wark. I mean, she's doing Newsnight. I can't imagine anyone questioning Kirsty's age or even thinking about Kirsty's age on Newsnight is utterly irrelevant. She just does a really good job. I think for women who in the industry have been known to look a certain way, I think possibly they find it more difficult.
The one thing about television that I've noticed since I've got older is that I don't know who the celebrities are anymore. You know, when they do these kind of reality shows or Love Island, obviously not, you know, I'm not the target audience, but it does baffle me a wee bit, you know, that I have to come to terms with it. I don't know. I'm out of the loop of pop culture to some extent, you know. I dare say you keep up a bit better because of your job.
Well, yeah, certainly. You know, my job on Loose Women, you really have to be much more aware of popular culture. Though, I mean, I've kind of let go of the soaps a little bit, and you know, I always have to do my homework before we have a soap star on. But you know, I think the nature of celebrity has changed, hasn't it? I mean, it's interesting. You probably refer to the fact that, you know, I'm going to do Strictly, and there has been, I think, what is a fairly common reaction of, oh, I don't know who these people are. Who are these people? I don't know they're madam, you know, and this is what you call a celebrity, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, sounds like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you think it just depends what your interest is. I mean, if you lined up for me the Manchester United football team, I wouldn't be able to tell you who any of them were. And yet, if you lined them up to a bunch of not just ardent supporters, but general football supporters, they would be able to name them. They would know what team they had been at previously. They'd know how many goals they had scored. Did I say that right? Goals they had scored. You know, they would be, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's so-and-so. So that is the nature of celebrity.
It's true. And Strictly being such a fun format. I remember my wife and I really enjoyed it the year of the lockdown, because it cheered everyone up. And it's a great introduction to celebrities you don't know, and you then know them afterwards, kind of thing, you know. So I think that's the beauty of that show. It appeals to such a wide demographic. Anyway,
and actually, I think the celebrity level of it becomes relatively unimportant, because it's about, okay, that person's a great dancer, or oh God, that person's not very good. They are going to have a struggle. So actually, you know, how famous the person is becomes secondary to, you know, how you think they're going to cope.
This is Ways to Wellbeing, Kaye. So let's talk a wee bit about your health and well-being, and as you approach that dreaded 60 mark. Although I should point out you're already in your 60th year. I'm sure you've
not yet.
Any health issues? Are you losing your eyesight, losing your hearing, falling down a lot, anything like that?
I'm trying not to fall down a lot, that's for sure. My eyesight, I wear one contact lens because my near sight, I think that's right. I've always had really good eyesight and got very frustrated when I was having to extend my arm to the menu, which is the classic deterioration in sight, which is age-related, isn't it? So I have got that. So I wear one contact lens. So the other eye for long distance seems to be doing okay. My hearing is an issue, and to the extent that I have had sort of full examinations, consultations on my ears, and I probably should be thinking about getting hearing aids. One ear in particular has got a very, very poor level of hearing, and the other one is trying its very best to compensate. And I probably am getting to the stage that it is becoming problematic in certain situations, and I have been recommended to get hearing aids, and I'm not in any way against that. And you know, life is a little bit busy at the moment, but it is something that I will pursue.
And they are very discreet these days.
Well, they are, and you know, there's so much, you know, negativity around hearing aids, I think, you know, which you don't attach to spectacles at all, you know. And you know, they're associated with old age, they're associated with what is it? Yes, you know, all the jokes. I mean, my kids actually will constantly make jokes and get very frustrated with me, when I ask them to repeat things. And we've had the conversation. I said, look, just stop it. You're right. I have got hearing loss. It's very annoying for you. It's even more annoying for me. I'm going to do my best to try and get hearing aids and improve it, but just quit with the jokes.
Yeah.
And I remember with my own parents who both required hearing aids, older than I am actually, and they didn't wear them. And it was, I'm not wearing that hearing aid. They really felt that was they almost had a badge on them saying, I'm old and past it, because of the hearing aids. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to sort of exclude myself and lock myself out if there is a relatively simple way of maintaining a good level of hearing.
Absolutely. What about your mental health? Are you content with life? Do you have anxieties other than turning 60, which you've very cleverly turned into a format?
When life gives you lemons.
Are you a happy person?
Yes, I think I don't have anxiety as such. I am a very introspective person. Mm-hmm. That term overthinker, what does that actually mean? I wouldn't say I'm happy. I'm not happy-go-lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I think carefree. There are people. No, there are people with a disposition that, they just bounce along in life and nothing really seems to bother them. Though, again, I don't think you ever fully know what's going on with any individual. And that's not me. I'm not anxious, but I'm a worrier. Mm. And, maybe once upon a time I would have thought that these were the same things. But I know now, with experiences of friends and family members, that anxiety is a very particular thing. Mm-hmm. And it's different from being a worrier. And I'm certainly in that latter camp, I would say.
Do you sleep well?
Well, I sleep like a log. Yeah. It annoys lots of my friends because that's a topic of conversation you get, isn't it, as you get older, like broken sleep. And I say, I just put my head on the pillow and put the lights out and that's me till the morning. And at which point somebody usually wants to slap me.
Yes, absolutely. What about the perils of being in the public eye? You are subject, you mentioned some of the kind of people trying to have a go about your age and things like that. But you get a lot of abuse online, don't you, from doing television and radio, more so than people used to get in the past. Mm. It's easy to say, that goes with the territory, water off a duck's back. Does it impact on you in any way?
Yes, is the answer. I don't get it so much from television. It tends to be radio and, obviously my show on BBC Radio Scotland, which you're very familiar with. And, it mainly comes around the political scene in Scotland. As we know, a lot of people have got very, very strong views in terms of, independence or, unionism or whatever. And I guess if you're sitting on the radio on a regular basis discussing those subjects, then if a certain section of the audience feels that you are not reflecting the world the way that they would want to see it reflected, they hit out at you. And, it really does depend on your mood. There are times that I can see this stuff and think, fill your boots, I don't care. There are times I see it and it really hurts me, and actually it sits with me all day. And it really does depend. And the other thing is, a lot of people say just don't look at it, and I think that's an option. I think I've tried everything, to be honest. I've tried replying with smarty pants responses. I've tried ignoring it. I've tried being funny. I've tried everything. But what I don't want to do, when people say just never look at it at all, and my partner says that, don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it. But I do think, as a broadcaster on a public service radio station, you have to be able to take a level of criticism. And, I am totally aware that I'm not going to get it right all the time and that I will make mistakes. And it may well be that somebody is making a very valid criticism of me that I would do well to take on board. Mm-hmm. But it's when it veers into just, personal abuse that it becomes much more difficult to accept.
Speaking of personal abuse, why on earth have you chosen Karen McKenzie, Karen No Filter McKenzie as your podcast partner, who, as you know, tells it like it is, whether you want to
and
hear
that's
it or
why
not.
I love her. That's why I love her.
I was listening back to a few of your great podcasts, by the way, and Karen having a go at everything from your dress sense to your friendships to your teeth to and at one point quite early on you said, look, there's no need for random cheekiness. Why?
Well, I really like Karen. She makes me laugh, and people who make you laugh are very sort of precious beings, I think. Don't tell her I said this, she'll be getting a big head. And, she is very direct, exactly as you say. She has no filter. So I like that honesty, but also she never says anything out of meanness.
Yeah.
And there are these people in the world who say, oh, well, I just tell it like it is. I just tell people what I think, your hair's horrible. Karen wouldn't do that. Everything is done with humor and nothing is done to hurt or to wound. And she makes me laugh. And I love people who make me laugh. And in terms of how to be 60, the real reason, though, is that Karen has a very different attitude towards that milestone from me. She absolutely embraces this time of her life. She was happy to give up her work. She'd enjoyed it, but she sort of had enough. She uses her time to do the things that she wants to do. And so it's been really good for me, actually, to get Karen's perspective on things, because you can get yourself in a mindset that you think that your way is the way. And Karen offers a very different, look at the aging process. And I find that it's good for me to think, oh, okay, my way's not the only way. There are other successful ways of growing older.
No, in all seriousness, I think it's a brilliant choice. I love Karen. I think it's a masterstroke pairing the two of you together. I can't understand why BBC Radio Scotland just don't do every day of the week with you two. That would be the format. Take over off the ball at the weekends as well.
No, I think there would be mutiny on the Bounty if we did that.
That's why I'm not in charge of radio stations anymore. But there you are. Now, tell me about the show at the Fringe. Is it you and Karen again?
Yep. So it's How to Be 60 podcast live. And I think it's a little bit presumptuous of us, to be perfectly honest, because the podcast has only been going for 4 months, which is a baby in podcast terms. But the idea was put to us pretty early doors. Why don't you do it live at the Fringe? And my immediate reaction was, oh God, no. Oh, no. Karen was, yeah, that would be great. And, I remember looking at her and thinking, are you serious? I said, I'm really surprised. I thought that you would run a mile. She said, no, why not? Let's go for it. And I thought, yeah, why not? So we've got 2 dates, the 23rd and the 24th of August at the Gilded Balloon. And it's very much in line with the format that we do, just a bit of banter about the stage of life, the third age, it's called. I hate that expression. And we've got some great guests. We've got Clive Anderson, we've got Robert Bathurst from Cold Feet in Downton, Nadia Sawala, my friend from Loose Women's, coming up, Jojo Sutherland. So we're just going to have a bit of fun.
And then you get that out of the way, and then the next thing to look forward to is Strictly Come Dancing. How are you feeling about that?
I'm going through stages. I mean, I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity. I mean, it's an enormous juggernaut of a show. And, I'm very lucky to be involved in it. I'm very nervous. I agonized over agreeing to do it, not because I didn't think it was a great show, but I thought, I just don't know if I've got it in me. You know, I'm not really a dancey kind of person. I don't have any dance experience. I suppose my age did come into it a little bit. I think, does anyone really want to see the dancing 59-year-old? But I put that out of my head. So I did agonize. And then, you know, it just does come down to probably that attitude that Karen had to the Fringe. I mean, you know, when you can probably count your tomorrows a bit more readily than you used to be able to, why not? Why not? You know, when am I ever going to get a chance like this again? It's going to be a big experience. However it goes, it's going to be a big experience. And I just didn't want to be sitting at the end of September watching the television and turning to Ian, my partner, and saying, I could have done that.
Well,
you know,
I tell you what, Kaye, I've got a memory of you because we used to work together, and I remember you came to me once, or you said on air, I can't remember exactly, that we should bring back skipping. Now, I never knew whether you meant skipping with a rope or the kind of skipping that Morecambe and Wise used to do at the end of their show. I think it was the latter. But since you were such a keen on skipping, I do wonder if secretly you do have some kind of dancing ability that you're keeping secret from us.
Oh, well, I'm not keeping anything a secret, I promise you. I really promise you. I mean, if I discover my inner Beyonce, there's nobody going to be more delighted than I am. I mean, you know, I'm always the person who's sort of standing at the edge of the dance floor. I'm not the one who's rushing up, you know, at the wedding when the band comes on or whatever. I tend to sort of hang back. But if I'm entirely honest, I kind of look on at those people on the dance floor who are having such a great time with a real degree of envy and think that does look joyful. You know, they look as if they are having such a great time. Yeah. And I'd love to be part of that. You know, I'd love to feel what they're feeling. I'd love to have that sense of just, you know, I don't know, abandon, you know, just let go all of your hang-ups and just have a good time. Yeah. So, yeah, I've got a bit of a yearning, I have to say. Whether I am capable of following through, time will tell.
And surely you remember, or you missed the week of being taught Scottish country dancing at school?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, Scottish country dancing, I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. You know, culturally, you know, other countries are brought up with the kind of sultry Latin samba type, you know, dancing. And meanwhile, we're hurling ourselves around, you know, like circus acts, sweating, drunken, you know, swords, ski and doos. It's not the same, is it?
Well, you know what BBC producers are like. I can just see it now. They'll be planning something like that exactly for you. See you with a ski and do, a plaid skirt, you know, swords, probably the whole lot.
Well, I can do the Paddy Bar and I can do the travelling step, so I'm off to a good start.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the TV. I'm sure you'll do enormously well. So finally, before we go, Kaye, if people want to skip along and see you at the Fringe, where should they go?
I'll be delighted to see them. The Gilded Balloon, 23rd and 24th of August. So that is Tuesday and Wednesday, and it is on at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it is called How to Be 60 Live.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Kaye. Now, normally we'd play out with our own pick tune, but I think we can do something.
Oh, I know what's coming.
You know what we're going to do. Kaye, thank you very much.
Ways to Wellbeing is produced in Inverness, Scotland by Partnerships for Wellbeing, a registered charity. To find out more about our services, go to p4w.org.uk.